This was another day as well, a day when the Turks had issued a deadline for the regime to stop the violence against its own people. What kind of a relationship do we see here with that, as well as, then the news coming where the U.S. and others want Bashar al-Assad to step down?
Well, Jim, the Turks had repeatedly been saying that the Syrian government had to immediately stop the bloodshed, stop the military offensive, and it had proven to be ineffective. What we are seeing now is this upped pressure from the U.S., from various European nations to try to back the Syrian government even further into a corner, hoping that somehow they can push it off of its current track of using military force to try to quell these voices of dissent. But we're going to have to wait and see exactly how effective that is going to be. We're also going to have to wait and see what Turkey does next. What sort of an ultimatum did it or is it going to offer to the Syrian regime to force it to stop? We're also going to have to wait and see what countries like Saudi Arabia and other Arab leaders decide to do, bearing in mind that while the Syrian government is most certainly being pushed into further isolation, it still has Iran on which it can rely. And internationally speaking, there are still countries like China, India, Russia, who have not come out nearly as strongly condemning the Syrian government, nor have they come out calling for the president to leave. And so we're going to have to wait and see exactly how the Syrian government decides to judge this development and then move forward.
I had a chance to talk with Wissam Tarif this morning at length, and he told me that there's still a lot of disappointment. I mean, they think it's historic now that finally the U.S. and some European nations have come in line with what the protesters on the street want. But they still say this regime is getting up to 60% of its funding from oil that is being sold. And he listed the countries, the UK, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. And the protesters want to see an end to that if the Europeans are serious.
Exactly. They want to see the type of sanctions being put into place by the European Union. Ideally, they would want to see sanctions brought into place by the United Nations, but that's not likely to happen anytime soon, that are really going to deliver an economic blow to Syria's energy and oil sectors, because there is the belief that in doing that, they could possibly force the government to drain its coffers. That would then put the pinch on what up until now has been a fairly silent business community, but one that is critical to the government's survival. It could also possibly lead to more defections from the military because they quite simply won't be receiving their salaries. So these are the types of concrete actions that activists want to see. And also, prior to this announcement by the U.S. and those various European countries, activists had been wondering exactly what it was going to take for the international community to say that the president had to go. They'll say that they've been suffering for 5 months now, and they were under no illusion that the government was ever going to change its ways.